me ask you the first question this way, Peter. Biggest story to come out of the Chinese Grand Prix weekend was?
For me, it was Oscar Piastri beating Lando Norris in terms of the big takeaway from the weekend. And we have a championship, don't we? If it's going to go to McLaren, what we want is those two guys racing. And as I've said from day one, if you want peace and quiet at McLaren, you want Lando to sort of float into his first world championship in a graceful way, you have a Daniel Ricciardo in the other car. Or a Sergio Perez, but you don't have an Oscar Piastri. And because they've taken that option, we've got a, Mansell Piquet, Moss Fangio, Senna Prost situation. And that's great. That's great for Formula One because the racing is never closer or better than when it's two teammates in identical cars. And when I say racing, I don't necessarily mean overtakes, hashtag. I'm not a overtake stat guy. I for me, close racing is tension, it's defense as much as attack. And that's what we had. That's what we had yesterday. We had a lot of tension between Oscar and Lando. I'm not sure TV, I can't imagine TV managed to capture that, but there was a lot out there. And I thought it was a very absorbing day in terms of Lando versus Piastri.
Go on then, Mister. To the McLaren equation, is what Oscar Piastri did at the Shanghai International Circuit proof positive that he now has the minerals to take it to Lando Norris over the course of the next 22 races?
Well, of course, he has the motivation and the drive and the desire and the competitive instinct to do that. I don't think it was a proof perfect of Oscar's now found his sweet spot and he can take it to Lando everywhere. For me, it was a weekend when Lando didn't really get it right. He had a very fractious Friday and Saturday. Sunday, he drove well with the car that he had, but he was beaten by then. It was too late. And I think he drove the lap that Oscar Piastri drives, which is turning in quite late, braking quite late, right on the edge, prone to mistakes if under real pressure. But because Lando wasn't putting him under real pressure, he got the pole and he then just drove off into the distance, as you would on a time management day when you don't have a problem from dirty air from the car in front and you can control the pace as you want to control it. Then it was a relatively easy job for him to win the Grand Prix, having got the pole. So I don't think that was I don't think it was a litmus test of exactly where we are between the two. I still think that if Lando doesn't make mistakes and he's into it, I think he's still going to beat Oscar because Oscar's corners are longer and he's more prone to error under real pressure because a lot of his style at the moment is based on late braking and just, getting the corner perfect. Whereas Lando has a bit more massage space with his sensitivity. I'm not saying he has shorter corners, but he does slightly, but not by much. But it's more his inputs. But that didn't help him in Shanghai, in hot track conditions, new track surface, new Pirellis, gusty winds. Friday, by the time Saturday had been and gone, he was on the road to recovery, but it was a bit too late by then.
What do you make of McLaren and team orders, Peter? Because I remember on a gazillion occasions now we've said Zach and Andrea Stella need to get it together and start being super clear about their driver hierarchy, not sacrificing now drivers' points or drivers' championship points at the altar of indecision. Now it feels like they're doing it. Loads of F1 fans are like, I don't quite fancy this. I want to see Oscar and Lando race if it's going to be a close championship. How do you solve for that dichotomy, Peter?
Well, I don't think they are doing it at the moment. As far as I can see, they are letting them race more or less. Obviously, there are moments when you say, hang on, guys, don't do anything at this point or whatever, as we saw in Melbourne. But in general, I think they are free to race. And we saw that with Lando yesterday. Save everything for the last part of the race. Finally, you got tyres and fuel. You can have a go at Oscar. And that will be the case right up until the point where it's clear that one driver, if it's clear that one driver has a real chance of the championship and the other is kind of out of it, and there's a bit of a threat from a Charles or a Lewis or a George or whatever, or a Max, obviously, then that's when they would apply team orders. I mean, the problem is not the orders. The problem is the decision to have Oscar Piastri, as I keep saying. It's nothing to do with the way they run it now. Once you've got Oscar Piastri in the team, you're going to have drama. You're going to have a fight between the two. All I'm saying is, in terms of last year, Lando was clearly the guy by mid-season that had the best chance of winning the World Championship. So it was obvious by the time you got to Hungary or to Monza that you let Lando maximize his opportunity to score points. And that's when they should have been applying team orders. Right now, they shouldn't be applying team orders. And I don't think they are. And I don't think they will, because why would they? They just want both guys to go out there racing. They took the decision to have these two quick guys, put them head to head. Be pointless now not to let them race until we get to a certain point of the year.